two brothers, inseparable since childhood. They dressed the same. They worked side by side every single day. They refused to even open a letter unless it was addressed to both of them. Together, they helped build Ford, they built Dodge, they became two of the richest men in America, and then, in the same year, they both died. Not in a car crash. Not in a factory explosion. They were taken out by something invisible, something no amount of money or power could stop. This is the heartbreaking true story of the Dodge brothers. Two blue-collar brawlers who built an empire and lost everything before they could enjoy it. John Francis Dodge was born on October 25, 1864, in the small town of Niles, Michigan. 4 years later, his brother Horace Elgin Dodge arrived. From the moment Horace could walk, the two boys were inseparable. Their father Daniel ran a small machine shop. Their mother Maria was a seamstress. There was no fortune here, no trust fund. No golden ticket, just grease, metal, and the sound of machines. But those machines shaped everything. Both boys grew up surrounded by tools. They learned how things worked by taking them apart and putting them back together. John had a sharp mind for business. Horace had a gift for engineering, the kind of instinct you can't teach in any school. In 1886, the family moved to Detroit. The boys were teenagers. They took jobs at a boiler manufacturing plant. John earned $16.50 a week. Horace earned $13.50. They worked brutal hours in brutal conditions. But they were learning. Every single day, they were learning. By the 1890s, the brothers had already started building things together. Horace invented a dirt-proof ball, bearing a small innovation that would prove critical. They used it to manufacture bicycles, sold the business, and in 1900, with the money they'd saved, they opened their own machine shop in Detroit. Their advertisement in the city directory was bold and confident. It read, "We are prepared to do any class of work that can be done in a first-class modern shop." That wasn't arrogance, it was a promise. And they delivered on it. Within a year, their reputation for precision and quality had spread across Detroit. In 1901, Ransom Olds, the man behind Oldsmobile, hired them to build transmissions. The brothers delivered 3,000 of them flawlessly. But then came the contract that changed everything. In 1903, a struggling entrepreneur named Henry Ford approached the Dodge brothers. He needed engines, transmissions, and axles for a new car company he was starting. But Ford didn't have the cash to pay them in full, so he offered them something else: a 10% ownership stake in his brand new company. The Ford Motor Company. The Dodge brothers accepted. Let that sink in for a moment. For an initial parts contract worth about $10,000, John and Horace Dodge became co-owners of what would become the most important car company in American history. For the next decade, the Dodge brothers were the backbone of Ford. They built the critical components. They ensured the quality. Without their engines and transmissions, the Model T might never have rolled off the assembly line. But here's the twist: most people don't know. The Dodge brothers didn't just supply Ford, they essentially built Ford. Their factory produced the majority of the car's mechanical components. Henry Ford was the visionary, but the Dodge brothers were the hands that turned that vision into metal and motion. And the Ford stock they held? It was printing money. Year after year, massive dividend payments poured in. The brothers were becoming fabulously wealthy, but they wanted more. By 1913, John and Horace had grown tired of building someone else's dream. They wanted their own car, their own brand, their own legacy. So they gave Ford notice, walked away from the most profitable supplier relationship in the auto industry. And in 1914, they launched the Dodge Brothers Motor Company. Their first car, the Dodge Model 30, was a revelation. While Ford was still using wooden frames, the Dodge brothers built theirs with an all-steel body. It had a 35 horsepower engine, a 12-volt electrical system when everyone else used 6. It was tougher, more powerful, and more advanced than almost anything on the road. The public loved it. Over 72,000 orders poured in before the first car was even delivered. By 1920, Dodge Brothers was the second largest automaker in America, behind only Ford. But the brothers weren't just businessmen. They were characters, red-haired, loud, and rough around the edges. They drank hard, they fought in bars. Horace once beat a man unconscious in the street for mocking him. John once threatened to kill a newspaper editor after an embarrassing article. They wore matching tailored suits and raced speedboats on the weekends. They were among the wealthiest men in Detroit, but the city's elite wanted nothing to do with them. When the Grosse Pointe Country Club refused to admit Horace, he didn't sulk. He bought the property right next door and built an enormous mansion, with a 12-car garage facing the country club. But beneath the brawling and the swagger, the brothers had huge hearts. John served as Detroit's water commissioner. Horace once visited a jail on Christmas, shook hands with every single prisoner, 200 of them, and secretly pressed a dollar bill into each man's palm. They funded the Detroit Symphony Orchestra and led the effort to build its concert hall. Two roughneck mechanics building a symphony hall. That was the Dodge brothers. And then in 1919, their fortune reached an almost unimaginable level. Henry Ford, tired of sharing profits, bought back their Ford stock for $25 million. Combined with the dividends they'd already collected, the brothers had turned their original $10,000 investment into $32 million. They were on top of the world, planning massive expansions, tripling the size of their factory. 20,000 workers, 450,000 cars a year. The future was limitless. And then January 1920 happened. The brothers traveled to New York City for the National Automobile Show. It should have been a celebration. Instead, it became a death sentence. Both John and Horace caught influenza. The devastating pandemic that was sweeping across the globe had found them. John stayed by his brother's bedside as Horace fought the illness. But while caring for Horace, John's own condition worsened. Pneumonia set in. On January 14th, 1920, John Francis Dodge died in his room at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. He was 55 years old. His body was carried back to Detroit by train. His wife and children were too sick or too shattered to attend the funeral. His factory workers wanted to pay their respects. But there wasn't enough time. Horace survived the initial bout, but he was a broken man. The brother he had spent every single day with since childhood was gone. The other half of his soul had been ripped away. He tried to carry on. He took over as president of Dodge Brothers, but his health never recovered. Pneumonia kept returning. His liver was failing from years of heavy drinking. By the end of 1920, Horace was moved to Florida. He knew he was dying. He made arrangements to ensure the company would survive without him. He promoted trusted leaders. He prepared for the end on December 10th, 1920. Less than 11 months after losing, John Horace Elgin Dodge died. He was 52 years old, two brothers, born together, built together, and taken from this world together in the same cursed year. WTAWA 1920 flu pandemic newspaper images. Funeral train. Dodge Mausoleum at Woodlawn Cemetery. Score is devastating. Slow piano. If this story moved you, hit subscribe right now. We tell the untold stories behind the world's greatest brands every week. Turn on notifications so you never miss one. After their deaths, the Dodge brothers' widows inherited the company, but without John and Horace, it was never the same. Management struggled. The magic was gone. In 1925, the widows sold the company for $146 million. 3 years later, Walter Chrysler bought it for $170 million. It made Chrysler the third largest automaker in the world overnight. Today, the Dodge name still lives. The Charger, the Challenger, the Durango. Machines built for power and rebellion. But most people who drive a Dodge have no idea where it came from. It came from two red-headed brothers from Michigan. Two boys who grew up with nothing, who built their first machines in their father's shop, who helped Henry Ford create an empire, then had the courage to build their own. They proved you don't need fancy degrees or society's approval to change the world. You just need a brother who believes in the same dream. And the tragedy of the Dodge brothers is this: they finally had everything. The money, the power, the cars, the empire. And then the universe took it all away. In a single year,